Man, it's not working. No matter how many times I try, it won't work. Okay, I'll just buy a new game, and it'll be okay. It'll be okay. Absolutely not. What the 130? This is. Hi, I'm Kyle, and I think the current state of video games and copyright is a complete mess. There's no rhyme or reason to all the issues, all the court cases that happen surrounding video games, and I'd like that to change. But first, let's look into the history to see where all these problems might have started. Thanks to the Berne Convention, an international treaty signed in 1887 by 10 European countries, creative works like books, art, and films are protected across borders. And while it doesn't mention video games by name, since they didn't exist, Article 2 covers literary and artistic works which game developers have casually fit themselves into. So yeah, game code, character designs, music, all that kind of stuff was essentially under copyright before the concept of video games was even a thought. However, this is where things get complicated, because unlike a book, a video game is a mashup of a ton of creative elements, which leads to some seriously messy questions. Let's jump to the 80s. Atari versus Armenia. The company, not the country. We had Atari with its game Centipede against Armenia with its war on bugs. Yeah, pretty similar. This is one of the first times someone asked what even is copyrightable in a game. The idea? The code? The bug with too many legs? Objection! But then came Asteroids v. Meteors. This case actually led to some basic concepts on what is copyrightable and what isn't. The court explained that while one's expression of an idea is copyrightable, the underlying idea that one uses is not. To quote, it is further explained that forms of expression that are essential to the idea, i.e. forms of expression which cannot be varied without altering the idea, are also uncopyrightable. So the concept of space rocks is public domain, but how shiny the space rock is, that's protected. So now that we have the groundwork laid down, let's talk about one of the biggest players in modern copyright enforcement. A name you probably know, DMCA. The DMCA was signed into law in 1998, back when everyone was playing on their Game Boy Color and Blockbuster still existed. Rest in peace. Its whole purpose was to protect creators online, especially as the internet was making piracy easier than ever. It was easier than going to court and cheaper too. Here's how it's meant to work. You're a content creator, someone posts your work without any permissions, you file a takedown request, the platform removes the work, and everyone is happy. In reality, the DMCA is less like a shield for creators and more like a nuke to be wielded by corporations. There's little verification required, companies can hit anyone with a takedown, and platforms usually comply without question, just to avoid liability. And the worst part is that victims can't do anything about it, since taking them to court would not only be expensive, it would simply be a losing battle. For example, popular Nintendo YouTuber Point Girl had a team develop a mod for the famous game The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. A mod that allowed for in-game multiplayer. It was an incredibly fun and creative innovation made completely free with no paywall. There should not have been an issue with making and distributing the mod, since it wasn't actually putting the game out for free. The mod wasn't packaged with the game. It was just a small patch that you can make. It would stand in court. However, Nintendo took down multiple of his modded videos, but 2 strikes on his channel. One more and his entire channel would have been wiped off the internet. They were clearly threatening that as well. PointCo decided to take the mod down and comply, since taking them to court would simply be too expensive. So now we've got fan games, modders, reviewers, streamers, even people just showing old gameplay footage getting obliterated by takedowns, even when what these people are doing is completely fair use. You want to know what the worst part is? There's almost no punishment for false claims. Corporations hit Control-C on a DMCA template and wipe your content off the face of the earth. And indie creators are stuck filing counterclaims and praying their internet provider doesn't suspend their account. Clara D. Bennick calls it the strike now, act later tactic, and I couldn't agree more. So yeah, DMCA works, but only if you're a billion-dollar company with a legal team and a grudge. And if you want to fight back, good luck with that. If the DMCA is the quick-draw weapon of copyright law, patents are the legal landmines that explode years after you step on them. Here's the deal. US patent laws let companies file patents on novel innovations, anything from a new engine part to a game mechanic. It gives exclusive rights to that idea for almost 20 years. In theory, it's meant to reward innovation, but in the wonderful gaming industry, patents aren't about innovation, it's about gatekeeping. Take Warner Bros. They created the revolutionary Nemesis system in Shadow of Mordor, an incredibly unique mechanic that had enemies remember your actions and react to them. Insanely cool, huge innovation. Could change the entire industry. It's patented. And now no one can legally use the system. No similar ideas, no improvements. The worst part, the studio under Warner Bros. That made it shut down. And they have not used the system since. This is not a one-off. Corporations constantly patent broad or basic concepts, then wait for someone else to trip over them, and boom, lawsuit. Indie devs cooked. Mid-sized studios ruined. So even if you have an awesome original idea, you better double check that no one patented something vaguely similar back in 2003. Those are the rules. Now let's talk about the significantly more important side of the story, the people trapped under said rules. Let's start with indie devs, the underdogs, the dreamers, the 2 guys in a basement crowd. These folks are constantly on thin ice. They don't have legal teams, they don't have millions in the bank, they probably don't even have thousands in the bank. If a big studio sends a takedown notice or threatens a lawsuit over something stupid, those devs have nothing to do but comply. It's either you abandon the project or you go bankrupt fighting Goliath in court. And spoilers, these devs aren't our David in this story. Then there's modders. These players love the games they interact with, building new stories, characters, mechanics. Hell, half the time they're doing the devs' work for them. Mods can keep a game alive for years. Look at Skyrim, or Minecraft, or Fallout. Yes, the actual game now. Yet companies will hit modders with DMCA takedowns, even when the mods clearly boost engagement and sales. And let's not forget game preservationists, people who fight to save old games from being lost to time. Because if you haven't noticed, game companies suck at this. These are games that you can't buy anymore, play on systems that aren't made by dev teams that no longer exist. These digital fossils can only realistically be experienced through ROMs and emulators, which should be fine, except the moment anyone uploads a game, they are immediately nuked. No mercy, even when these games are literally not on sale anymore. Preservation groups like the Video Game History Foundation are trying to change that, literally begging for DMCA exemptions just so people can access old games that companies don't care about. And what does the US Copyright Office have to say? But piracy! These laws, as they are now, aren't about protecting creativity, they're about controlling it. And the people who pay the price? The creators, the fans, the players. Let me briefly talk about Palworld here, the case that mainly brought this mess to light for me. What is Palworld? Well, imagine Pokemon with guns. When Palworld dropped, the internet exploded. The comparisons with Pokemon were rampant, And of course, Nintendo started suiting up immediately. They hit Pocket Pair, the dev team, with a lawsuit in Japan. And they started building a patent war chest in the US, trying to patent things like the capturing mechanic of creatures. To be clear, they did not patent the actual designs, even though there's an actual case here, I think. The US Patent Office luckily did shoot down most of these, but not all. A couple made it through. And now Nintendo could try to use those to bring a full legal beatdown in America too. It's like they're trying to own entire genres. Like if Marvel patented the idea of superheroes and then sued any and every comic on the planet. Let me be completely honest here. This stuff matters to me so much. Not just because I love games, but because I believe in creativity and culture and fairness. Big corporations shouldn't get to decide what slides in this industry or what ideas can be explored. They shouldn't have a big veto button that is very reminiscent of a certain other button. We need real reform, real protection for developers, modders, and archivists. But who am I kidding? People have tried fighting the system before and they went bankrupt. These companies are far too large for people to fight, and no one will boycott out of FOMO or simply through negligence. So why try it? Who am I even to talk? I literally just pre-ordered Nintendo's new console. So maybe that's it. We can continue to talk and talk about the issues. There won't be anything we can do about it. So that's it. I give up. Okay, please, we can talk about this. We can talk about this.
終わった、宮本さん。
I haven't lost yet.
何？
How do we fix this mess? Let's talk strategy, aka policy changes that could make a difference. First, punish false takedowns. Right now, under DMCA, companies can file a takedown with 0 consequences. So they do it all the time. How can we fix it? First off, making disputing these claims significantly easier without going to court. It should not cost money unless the dispute falls through. And if the claim is false, the company gets penalized. If you abuse the DMCA to shut people up or shut competition down, you pay. Simple enough, I'd say. Step 2, define fair use. Fair use is supposed to protect transformative content. Think mods, let's plays, memes, all of that. But courts interpret it differently every single time. The rules are vague, and that's dangerous. We need clear, stronger fair use guidelines, especially for online content and digital media. The worst thing possible for creators is playing legal roulette every time they hit upload. For step 3, fixing patents. Game mechanics are being locked behind decade-long patents, sometimes by companies who don't even use them. That's not protection, it's hoarding. We need shorter patent windows for software mechanics and more specific standards for what counts as novel, because catching a creature in a ball isn't exactly new anymore. Next, preservation. Right now, preserving old games is treated like piracy, even when it's for research or history. That's insane. We need actual legal carve-outs for libraries, museums, and preservation groups, so games don't just disappear. Books and movies get that treatment. Why not games? Last, we need to level the playing field. Indie devs, modders, and fan creators can't afford long court battles. Big companies know that and abuse it. We need legal aid programs, maybe government funded, to help the little guys. These fixes won't solve everything, but it'd make the industry a whole lot fairer. So what can we do to incite change? Boycotting and protesting won't work. These corporations are way too big to care or listen. There aren't enough people to care about this issue for it to ever impact corporations. So we use the government to our advantage. Who do we call? First up, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. She's on tech-related committees and already supports digital rights issues. So that one's pretty easy. Next up, we have Senator Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, and essentially the most powerful person in Senate. If anyone can push for copyright reform, it's him. Also, we have House Rep Michael Waller. He can vote on DMCA and copyright laws. You have to remember, we aren't alone. As I've talked about before, there are other groups who are fighting the good fight already. The Electronic Frontier Foundation are basically the paladin of internet freedom. They push for reform of copyright law, fair use, and digital rights. There's also Public Knowledge. They work on tech policy and defend the open internet. Super active on DMCA reforms. We don't have to storm the Capitol with a buster sword in tow. We can make a difference. But by going at this on the government side, we can win. I want to win. I will do everything I can to make that happen. Thank you for listening to my rant. I hope you enjoyed.
Wait, I'm American!